A new study reveals the top 10 happiest cities in America. 5 are actually in the same state. So let's talk about the happiest city in America and why that matters for your soul. What's up, guys? My name is Father David Michael Moses. I'm a Catholic priest, and if you enjoy these types of reflections, engaging the culture, please subscribe so you don't miss future videos. So let's take a look at this study, look at some of the metrics that they use. We'll talk about which city is the happiest.
Well, we're really happy.
And then I'll offer a challenge at the end that I hope you find helpful. So this finance company called Wallet Hub just released its rankings of America's happiest cities. And the company ranked the cities based on a lot of different metrics of happiness. So they looked at depression rates, they looked at income, the average leisure time people had per day. Each metric was ranked on a 100-point scale, with 100 representing the maximum level of happiness. So the ideal city for them provided conditions that helped people have good mental and physical health, things like reasonable work hours, short commutes, good weather, caring neighbors, stuff like that. The short commute time I found kind of funny because priests are known statistically to be very, very happy people. And we often live very close to where we work. In fact, we usually live where we work, right at the church. So thought that was kind of interesting and checks out in my own personal life.
Hey, are we there yet?
So the report explains that the top city had the highest share of households with an income over $75,000. So almost 80% of the people who lived in this city had an income of over $75,000. And that's actually pretty significant because there was a study in 2022 that found that people's happiness steadily increases up until they make about $75,000 a year. So beneath that number, there's varying degrees of happiness, but it goes up until that number. And at that number, it actually flattens out. So it's not as though if you keep making more money over $75,000 a year that you get happier. It actually just remains the same. So the analysts for this study determined that cities where a substantial percentage of the people make at least $75,000 a year, those cities are more likely to have happy people. This checks out, in terms of what we know about humanity, even the way God made it, that we do need to have our basic needs met. If you look at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, physical needs kind of need to be met before we can start to look at bigger things. I would also point out that it's good for parents to be able to provide for their children. I know some parents, through no fault of their own, struggle to do that. But ideally, it's good for parents, especially fathers, to be able to be providers. So I think it's good for the kids, obviously, to have their basic needs met and to see the love and provision of their parents as a reflection of the love and provision of God, our Father. But it's also good for the parents to be able to provide for the kids. That makes sense to me that would lead to a level of happiness. A study came out recently that showed that fathers who actually have dinner with their children, even like toddlers,
Kids, dinner!
it showed a measurable level of behavioral improvement in the kids. That they actually noticed, even with children over a time, they weren't having dinner with their father, that there were often a lot of behavioral issues. So it makes sense that having a certain level of income where the father can be present at the home would actually increase the quality of life. Also, last thing before we move on to the next point, philosophically speaking, leisure is very much the basis of culture. So to have leisure time, to have time where you don't have to work, actually makes space for us to do a lot of good things in the culture, such as the arts, such as listening to music, that kind of stuff. But also in terms of religion, like a feast day in the church, people used to all take off work and they would have a feast. And it was actually a time to refocus on God. So even in terms of religion, it's good to be able to have a society where people don't have to work constantly, where there's actually space for people to engage in healthy leisure that can hopefully lead them to good spiritual fruits. So people in this happiest city in America also had the 5th lowest depression rate and the 4th highest average life expectancy in the country. So those are definitely contributing factors. One thing I found particularly interesting is that it also had the lowest separation and divorce rate in the country. It was only 8.9%. So isn't this what the Catholic Church teaches? That staying married is important, that when you take the marriage vows, that they are a commitment for life. So based on the studies here, people staying married is a great contributing factor for their happiness and for their overall good of that society and for that city. Once again, the science totally backs up church teaching. So what is this happiest city in America? It is Fremont, California, or Fremont. I don't know how you say that. but that's the city. Actually, I'm going to look up how to pronounce Fremont. I don't know. Fremont pronunciation. Fremont. Okay, Fremont. There we go. We're good. So listen to this. You might say, hey, I'm moving to Fremont. Wait, was it Fremont or Fremont? Fremont. So listen to this. You might say, hey, I'm moving to Fremont so I can be happy. Or at least I'm going to try to create a life with all of these factors and different metrics we just mentioned. And I would say, hey, there's no problem with that. It's healthy to look at some of these metrics and see how you can implement in your own life. But let me just say, the kind of happiness we're talking about in this study can be lost. Clearly, because it's based on these metrics, all worldly metrics. You can lose your job. You can get a pay cut. There will be bad weather, even in California. Your neighbors can get weird. You can have health problems physically, mentally, emotionally. The Christian message isn't that trying to live a stable, happy life is bad. The Christian message is that at some point in almost everyone's life, something will go wrong, maybe very wrong. And then what? If your happiness was based on all those things, then you will be completely lost. Do you want your happiness to be externally based? A happiness that is completely dependent on what's going on around you? Or do you want a happiness that can endure through anything? The Christian way of life, as we hear from St. Paul, is I have learned in whatever situation I find myself to be self-sufficient. I know how to live in humble circumstances. I know also how to live with abundance. In every circumstance and in all things, I've learned the secret of being well-fed and of going hungry, of living in abundance and of being in need. I have the strength for everything through him who empowers me. That's the joy that is only found in Christ. That's what we need. Otherwise, at some point, we're going to be disappointed. So yes, not bad to look at these metrics and try to have a stable life, a happy life. But at the end of the day, we need something more than that. We need a joy that is going to endure regardless. Because when you look at the life of the great saints, the ones who were imprisoned, the ones who were tortured, they never lost their joy. Jesus himself on the cross never lost his joy. So I think that's a great metric to look at. Those are my thoughts. Hope that was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments, other stuff you maybe think would be helpful to talk about. And we'll see you guys next time. God bless.